Okay, I'll probably just have a few intro slides and then jump into a demo, and then we'll talk through some case studies. And finally, I think we'll end with a few practical activities where you actually get to use Course Insights either on your own course or in our training environment. So what is learning analytics? I think around about 2011, there was this really high level definition that came out, and it was really related to learning analytics being defined as the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learners for the main purposes of both understanding and optimizing learning. And that's a very broad definition. There have been a few different refinements over the years. But mainly learning analytics being applied to, I think, the four big areas have really been in retention. So, trying to figure out which students are about to leave and not be retained in courses or within a university program. To better understand learners. So particularly things like self-regulation, student motivation, students' goal orientation. I would say that this area probably gets a lot of attention in the last 5 years, particularly because while it started more as analytics, with learning analytics, there's been a lot of work with researchers trying to actually link that back to learning theories. And this is self-regulated learning, obviously being one of the bigger theories out there. And a lot of this work is still really very much ongoing. There's also learning analytics to better understand your course design. So look at your course, the resources that you're using, the activities that you're using, is that the right design, and how you can use learning analytics to actually improve your course. And then another big piece of the learning analytics puzzle is really in how we can use it to provide students with personalized feedback, essentially. So just a quick question. I'm not sure if if you're seeing my actual slide deck or my presenter thing here. I don't know what's happening on my Mac at the moment.
We're seeing your presenter at the moment. Sorry.
Maybe just get out of that one. So what's actually happening here? Should just go to my slide deck alone. Use slideshow, maybe that helps. That's better. Sorry about that. Okay. I think one of the main goals when we started Course Insights was actually to provide analytics across the course lifecycle. And the way in which we wanted to do that was, or essentially one of the main things that has enabled us to actually try to do that is pulling in data from a number of different systems. So particularly Course Insights gets data from Blackboard. So these are all Blackboard engagement metrics, pretty much counts of clicks that students do on a Blackboard site. We also pull in the Blackboard Grade Center. This data has actually improved a lot over time. We've gotten better data from Blackboard essentially. There was a point in time in Course Insights where you actually had to upload your Grade Center file. At the moment, we actually do a nightly update to bring it in. If you're using platforms such as LearnX, which is about to be renamed UQ Extend in the coming days, I think that's going to happen over the coming weekend, if my memory serves me well. And LearnX is obviously used for a lot of blended courses. So you'll have a Blackboard site presence plus all the blended material being placed on LearnX. We do bring in demographic data and things like program enrollment from the SciNet, our student information system. And we also pull in from Echo 360, which is all the lecture video recordings. More recently, semester 1 this year, we started pulling in reading lists from the TELUS system as well. And in the demo, I will show you that as well. Going to just basically jump to a demonstration to show you what Course Insights actually looks like at the moment, and the new features that we've added. So I'll actually stop sharing PowerPoint here and swap to a web browser. Okay, Course Insights should be available on the left-hand panel of your Blackboard site. It's a link that you need to be in the edit mode of Blackboard to actually see, because it's obviously only available to staff, particularly course coordinators or web builders, I think. Or it could be builder is the role in Blackboard. So you will see it from there. Once you click on it, you'll see a screen like this. So I'm actually in our train environment at the moment. It's just a instance of Course Insight that pulls in some dummy data that we can use for purposes of training, workshops, demonstrations. The first screen of Course Insights is enrollment. Gives you an overview of students that are coming to your course. This screen is really, really useful, I would say, in the weeks leading up to week 1, particularly O week, where you'd like to see where students are coming from. So you can see here we're showing, number of students enrolled, how many of those students are international, how many are from non-English speaking backgrounds. And then really early on with Course Insights, I think a feature that a lot of course coordinators actually requested was to know how many students are actually repeating the course. We also show things like program distribution. So where students actually, what is their main program that they're enrolled in when they're coming to the course, and age distribution and language distribution. We've got some. Okay, just checking out the text chat here. That's okay. Yes, and Amy, that's okay to leave. We are recording as well now. Okay, so that's enrollment. One of the key things with Course Insights also is that we allow you to filter down. So let's say I particularly want to look at the international students. So I'm going to say residential status is equal to international. So you can build these queries and you can see we've got a lot of metrics here, and I'll go through some of those as I go through this demo. I'm going to apply that filter right now. And once you apply a filter, what you'll notice is that all of the charts become comparative. So you can actually then compare the overall cohort with the cohort that you filtered down to. And that's just one thing to keep aware of with the filters. So I'll just come up here and actually reset this filter. Engagement is our screen where we basically show the time series access. So this is a screen we've actually adjusted a lot and changed over the years to try and make this a little bit more meaningful. Based on feedback, we've changed it now to look at the active or the percentage of active students in each week. So we used to just have the time series data of number of clicks, and that turned out to not be so useful. Swapping it over to actually look at the percentage of students that are enrolled in your class that are actually active in that week, I think gives you a better indication just to gauge how engagement is going in your course with your online materials. So yeah, you can see pretty much it's fairly steady, really increases from O week to week 1, and then does do a drop in mid-semester, but then comes back up inside there. We're doing this dual chart thing here as well, where we now also show average activities per active student. And that's just a way to see how much activity on average students are actually doing while they're active in those particular weeks inside there. So you can see here we pull in Blackboard as a platform. But if you're using a platform like LearnX as well, we automatically try to pull in those platforms for you. We do this on course code matching, particularly. So you can see here LearnX, soon to be called UQ Extend. We do the same sort of chart here. But for LearnX, we also get more detailed information on the videos that the students are watching. So we can actually show the distributional range as box plots for the videos in terms of percentage watched. I do get asked the question of why percentage watched can sometimes be greater than 100. And this is really where students might be replaying videos. So where you do see outliers and things like this with a video particularly reaching, greater than 100%, it just means that students are rewatching that video. So it might essentially mean a concept or something that they're having a little bit of difficulty with.
Anisha, can I just, sorry,
Sure.
I did put this in the chat, but I know it's hard to do two things at once here.
Sorry.
Can I, in terms of the I don't use LearnX, but so I was looking at the Blackboard. This is based on the number, like it's data that's showing students going onto Blackboard and clicking on the content on Blackboard. Is that how those numbers are calculated?
So you're talking about the activity?
Yes.
For either LearnX and Blackboard? Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So essentially we count clicks for activity. Now, if the first set here with the bar charts, with percentage of active students, a student just really needs to click on one item to be active in that particular week.
So they go into the Blackboard site. Sorry, I just think it's important for me to understand how the numbers, so they go into the Blackboard site for, say, my course, and any aspect of it they would click on. So they'd go to a folder and click on something, or is it just going onto the Blackboard site that counts?
So you'd have to click on something like learning resources to be counted here.
Okay, all right. No,
so it could be, any of the side menu items. So it's not just, pulling up the Blackboard site itself. It will be actually actively having clicked on something.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
So that's the percentage of active students, essentially.
Sorry,
yep.
Just adding to that question, and is there a way for us to see, like, for example, if we have a specific activity on Blackboard, or maybe we have a H5P activity, can we see numbers for like more specific activity inside Blackboard?
Yeah, so we get asked that absolutely lots of times. Pretty much, we haven't really been able to get that down to the level that people need. The main reason for that really is because the data we get back from Blackboard tells us that the learner has clicked on something, but we struggle to know for each of those items. Sometimes we can't know what it was that they actually clicked on. So particularly, what we do get is tracking on knowing that they clicking going down folders inside your Blackboard site, or clicking on like an assessment item to go into it. That we definitely get. But if it is a file, or like a PowerPoint or a PDF or something that you've embedded on the page, we don't get that they have actually clicked on that.
Okay, I see.
So I think our ultimate aim is, and we've been trying to work with Blackboard, I think once there's a move within the university to go away from Blackboard standard, so we're actually on quite an old version of Blackboard. If we swap to individual courses that actually are based on Blackboard Ultra, we'll start to get that information and then be able to give you a detailed tree view of your course where you can actually see the individual activities. To answer the H5P question, so we don't pull in data from H5P at the moment. It is on our roadmap. I would also suggest that if you actually embed the H5P as an LTI, that within H5P, you can actually get some tracking information back. If you put it in just as HTML, I know if you know the HTML page in Blackboard, then you won't get any tracking particularly. You'll see, I think you'll see the number of people that have accessed it, but you won't know who it is.
Okay, yeah.
If that helps.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, yes, but keep asking me questions as we go as well. That's great. Okay, so I've shown you those charts. I've shown you LearnX We can get detailed video information from LearnX. The other thing with LearnX is it allows you to embed problems. So problems could be little activities like multiple choice questions, drag and drop activities. And we basically can show you those that are getting a lot of attempts. So that would be where students are perhaps not getting it correct in the first instance, and they're doing a number of tries to actually get it correct. And so we basically display that as well inside here. There is an advanced engagement here, and I think this is pretty useful for the LearnX videos. So we can actually show number of distinct students, max and min in terms of, percentage watched for the platform as well. And you can get this for every particular video. And there is a download for this as well here. So it has I think I've worked with a few different academics to actually download this data and review their videos that they've embedded. So obviously, if they've got a lot of videos that are embedded in the blended learning course, and they wanted to see how students are accessing each of these, this has been quite useful inside there. We do show video duration versus percentage watched. I think this is just to determine, what that good size of your video should be inside there. And finally, we do the same with problems. So you get a table of all the problems that are embedded in your LearnX site, just to see how many distinct students have accessed it and the average number of attempts to actually get that problem correct inside there. A recent addition that we have had within Course Insights is a new data integration with TALIS, the library reading list system. So as long as you're actually embedding TALIS using the LTI within your course, we can get tracking for what the actual reading students are getting, and we can pull out additional metadata to know whether that reading is required or recommended. And here basically we're just showing distinct students that actually accessed the video in each week of the semester. Slide here. So you can go through the whole list. So this course particularly had 7 readings inside here, and this is how students, distinct students that were accessing it in different weeks. There are obviously a lot of, I think, particularly in the HASS faculty, I've seen courses that have a lot of readings, and you can actually filter and order and actually look across the weeks to just see when students are using this. Within assessment, particularly, we've always shown, and once we, a few years ago, started to be able to actually pull in the grade center data, we have pulled in, all the assessment data. So we pull in assessment data. We can show percentage score distribution for each assessment item. So I'll probably come back to the Sankey. And then we can show the individual distributions in terms of marks for each of the assessment items as well. One of the things with assessments, and it coming straight from Blackboard, is we obviously lack a link back to ECP. And sometimes we do see courses that have a very large number of Blackboard grade center columns. I think the most I've seen would be greater than 40. And obviously that's a lot of different column data to pull in. And so what we've done is, you'll see if you do have a large grade center, you will see a bigger overview here, and then you'll obviously have a lot more to scroll through in terms of each of those columns, because we just can't determine what maps to an ECP or what's just for information for students and things like that. That has made the Sankey diagram a little bit difficult to interpret, because obviously you're going to get a lot of transitions in columns through there. And the Sankey diagram does provide a good overview of how students are transitioning between assessment items. So this is how grades are actually changing, and can give you an indication of where an assignment might become more difficult, or particularly if you wanted to reach out to students. There's students that are doing well, but then the grades seem to drop as the semester is progressing and as they're progressing through the assessment items. So you can see here from assignment 1, or basically from assignment 2 to assignment 3, there was a set of students that actually dropped a grade. And there's some that even went right down to a credit. The Sankey is really just to show you how many. For our next release next semester, we're going to introduce a little hover to show you how many students there are and automatically filter to those students so you can actually contact them more easily. So that's a feature we haven't yet released, but it's going to be there, I think, before semester 2. But a really good useful tip is that if you do have a lot of assessment items, what you really need to do is hit this select reorder assessment items button, and then you can actually turn off items or choose to turn them back on, and you can also reorder them in case we didn't get the order correct. So let's say this particular midterm came after assignment 2, and that makes a big difference because then you can see the actual flow of items more accurately. We'd love to be able to actually get this to be completely accurate and completely mapped to the ECP. It's just that it's a really hard thing to do because they're quite separate systems. But ultimately, that might be a goal that we'd like to reach with analytics. So that's the assessment item stuff. Everything I've shown you here so far between enrollment, engagement, assessment, that's really at a aggregate level for the whole course. You can do filters. I've got 2 raised hands here. Okay, let's have a look. What to do with participants? Okay, Fran. Do you have a question?
Yes. So I was just wondering, maybe that's what you're going to talk about later, but I was wondering, can we, because what you're showing is more like overall, of course, we can apply filters and just check, like, for example, only female, only male, only international, domestic, but can we track all of this data from, if we choose 1 or 2 specific students, and I have access, for example, I don't know, John, we want to see how like the grades that John got and if it improved or not. Do we have that functionality?
Yep, I will show you that it was the next thing I was going to show you. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. All right, Amy.
Yeah, my question's about this specific chart, and I'm just having a hard time understanding what the waves indicate. Is that how one student performed and went from low to high, or?
So that's groups of students, basically. So the way to interpret this is to say, okay, we started assignment 1. There were this many students that had received a high distinction. These same students that had a high distinction, there was this many of them that still got a high distinction in assignment 2, but there's this many that actually dropped down to a distinction.
Okay. So, and then on the opposite, then if you've got somebody that fails and then there's a line, so you've got somebody who's failed, who's then gone up into the 7, is that right?
That's right. So this little line here was someone passing, but then seemed to do well on midterm.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
What is coming for semester 2 is mouse overs, so you can see the number of students more clearly. And also, if you then click on here, what you'll get is a automatic filter created for you. Because at the moment, what you'd have to do is, do a filter for assignment 1 and then do a filter for assignment 2 within your grade range. What's going to happen is you're going to be able to click here and it's automatically going to be able to happen. So you can then identify those exact students, essentially.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so I think from those 2 questions, I can tell everybody's interested in identifying actual students. So enrollment, engagement, assessment, it's really the overall cohort that you're looking at. You can apply a filter and then you basically still get comparisons between different cohorts of students, but we haven't yet reached the individual level of the individual student to actually have a look at. So it might be that you want to look up one particular student, or you've done a filter, but now you actually want to see who those students actually are. So we've got the students section here, which is a student grid, as you can see, which is just a table when I say grid. And it lists all the students, and every metric that we've collected or is available to be filtered on is actually shown in this particular table. So you can see we're pulling in things like the residential status, the program they're coming from, whether they're repeating. We also pull in all the metrics that we're calculating for engagement. So you'll see things like days since last access Blackboard. So in the semester, if you wanted to find students that were not accessing Blackboard for a particular date range, you could actually do that filter. You could also look at Blackboard engagement, and this is in total clicks. Just how students have been watching Echo 360 videos. So this dummy data course, we haven't had really Echo 360 videos, but that's available for other courses. So, doing things like total videos, also distinct videos watched. There's the same for LearnX engagement and days since last access, as well as showing things like total video watch time in minutes, average percentage watched, number of distinct videos accessed, the problems on LearnX. And then also, I think a really useful one, if you do have a lot of readings, is to look at the distinct TALIS items viewed one for the students as well. As something you can filter on here. So if I do a really simple filter here, let's look at locating, particularly the repeating students. If you're repeating, apply this filter, you'll see that essentially it's now just given me just those students that are repeating the course. And I can now start to look at how they've been accessing the system and also their specific assessment items over here. And the student list filters based on any filter that you apply, essentially, inside there. Okay, any questions? No questions. I'll stop sharing course insights here and go back to my PowerPoint.
Sorry, Anish, I have one quick question.
Yeah, go
see that you could search the students who are repeating. Can you also do a group search on students that had failed a certain assignment?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, thanks.
So it's just when you apply the filter, it's just selecting the actual assignment and then doing the percentage score that you want to find less than. You can even do filters where you've got high engagement, but they're still not doing well on assessment. So you can really target that down.
Sorry, and
yep.
What if we have like a Blackboard quiz? Can we kind of like choose specific questions from that quiz and see if they and how they maybe relate or I don't know align with the grades and the other data from, you know what I mean? Can we do
yep.
that specific if it's a quiz on Blackboard?
Not at the moment. So we pull in the overall score that's in the grade center. We don't pull in for individual questions.
Okay.
The way to do that, I guess, is if you took out the individual question and actually made it a column, but that does make then a lot of columns. And you obviously don't want to share those individual one back with students. Yeah. That has been asked before, and I think what we do have on our roadmap essentially is to allow you to upload custom data into Course Insights and then do some analysis on it.
Okay.
But we don't support that as yet. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. So I've included this here because it was a nice, interesting paper that I found, which was really looking at, as it's called, the learning analytics journey. And I think ties together with, learning analytics for learning design, where you're actually not using analytics all the time in your course, but you're actually having specific times in the course. So it might be, what you'd like to see in week 3, or, after a mid-semester, how has, you know, how have students progressed? What were the outcomes? What does engagement look like during an assessment item? And it just takes you through that whole idea of a course life cycle and reflection activity inside here. In terms of looking at course insights for providing personalized feedback, I guess it comes back to 2 levels of feedback. There's certainly things you can do in whole class scaffolding. So this really, you know, our first 3 screens there, enrollment, engagement, assessment, where you can look at the whole overall cohort and you can apply filters. And it might mean that this is something that you'd want to show back to the actual students. Might be, you know, at the start of a lecture to you know, just let them know engagement has dropped off, or there's a particular video that you see them rewatching and you want to know more about what concept they actually find difficult there. So you could do that, you know, as a whole class scaffolding. There's also personalized feedback. So one of the things I haven't yet shown you is within that student grid, you can actually email students. So when you do apply a filter, you can actually quite easily use that to start with some predefined templates, as well as send students email inside there. So I'll probably swap to that and show you that. Okay, so I've got repeating students here, and what I might do is just reset this and actually do it as N. Let's find someone in assignment 3 that was less than equal to, let's say, 40% here. So this is really an assessment filter. So it's come back with, you know, 5 students. I can actually select all of them. And then 2 things you can do. You can either copy the email addresses, and this just copies it to your clipboard, so you can paste that into another email client, or you can actually hit send email over here. And we've got like a little email sending utility that comes in. What you can do is type in whatever you want to send to the students. It's got little placeholders for their first name. Add some of your details after that. Hit send. You can also save templates. So if there is communication that you're sending out or you want to share between different courses that you have, you can save the templates. But we also have some templates available here, such as there's one here for not engaging in learning activities. And you can see we've got some sample wording that you can reuse inside here as well. So this was a new feature we added for semester 1 last year. You can customize things like the subject header. We've also got placeholders for the actual course code dynamically being placed within the email itself. And there's a few templates. So we separate out some UQ default templates as well as templates that you save over time. I think there's main ones. Template here to congratulate students, not engaging in learning activities, did not submit an assignment, low engagement, and not engaged recently, or even a pre-assessment check-in inside here. So there's a few sample ones to choose from and use inside there. Any questions on email sending?
Just to clarify, Anisha, so I presume that the those curly brace course code, close curly brace, that'll be automatically replaced with the course code
Yep.
You're sending from, and same with the first name?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, good to confirm that. That is right.
And Anisha, this is probably a really dumb question, but I assume that if you've selected 5 students that and sent it through, that it would go individually to each of those 5 students, not as a collective agreement. Yeah, I mean
That's right. And
99.9% sure that's what would happen. I just wanted to double check.
No, good to check on those things. Yeah, it's individual. No one will see what anybody else is seeing. And there's another option that you can send a version of that email to yourself as well. A little bit of a case study right now. So this is from Associate Professor Jason Lodge. He's actually been probably our biggest user of Course Insights. So he actively engages with the tool, and then at different weeks, he uses it to send out different types of emails. And I think the distinctive thing here is I did try to describe each of the emails he was sending out. The main thing for me here is that it was quite strategic what he was sending out, and that it wasn't just sending everybody in the course everything. So it was really filtering down to subcohorts of students that were not doing something or doing something, and then sending them a targeted email message. So you can see in week 3, it's not accessing the content. Week 8, it was actually a combination of low engagement and a low assessment result. Week 11, he actually pulled in data from a different data source, which was workshop attendance, which is something we don't really pull into Course Insights. So he obviously did that as a offline activity, and then looked up the students in Course Insights to send that email. There's also nice touches such as, extra help for not doing well in an assessment item, and even just congratulating students. And even after the course, there's a UQ Wellness support email that's sent out to students that didn't do well or failed the course inside there. This is just an example email. This is, pre-assessment check-in, and just some text that Jason has used. I should say that we did take a lot of I showed you those default templates that we had inside Course Insights. A lot of those would have first started with things that Jason was using in his course. There's another one, post-assessment check-in. Inside, I'm happy. I'm going through this a little bit fast at the moment, but I'm quite happy to share these slides as well. This is the extra help and feedback for your next assignment task. And this one's really interesting because it actually gets the students to work through the self-regulated learning survey tool. And that tool itself is, I think it's run through Qualtrics, but based on the options that the students select, they actually get feedback based on things like, how they're studying and stuff like that. So I really thought this was a nice touch, based also on some of Jason's research. And yeah, this is the self-regulated learning survey, and you can see it does give recommendations back to the students based on the questions and how they're answering them. So Jason's thoughts based on using Course Insights was that it did show care and accountability, with links to, encouraging sense of belonging. Course Insights definitely made sending of the emails a much easier task to do. But obviously, that link, the CCATs did improve, but, I don't think it was only one thing of using personalized emails that would have solely contributed to that. Got another case study here. And this one, I think, is a few years old, with Dr. Nicole Storman. Nicole did not use the email functionality in Course Insights. What she did was download that student data grid and then use that in a separate mail merge. So it's obviously got a bit more technical, but I think what she was trying to do was use the data to create much more visual PDFs that she could then do a mail merge and send the students. And so here's just an example of, what she was actually sending to the students, which is much more detailed feedback. Also looking at a additional survey that the students actually did in the course, but then also pulling in, their Blackboard engagement, their LearnX engagement, and things like that. Probably skip over the nudging profile or protocol here, which is really just about sending students emails and, things like that. But I have a reference there to that at the moment. I think most important here is, what do you want to nudge? When in the semester would you like to do it, and who those students are? And I think Course Insights can help you along that path. And then I think the most important bit here is how you word it and, the style of communication that you're using. Now dive into an activity. So I know we probably don't have that much time, but probably cut this down a little bit, is for you to just have a little bit of a play with Course Insights, and I'll probably give you 5 minutes to do that before we come back. So we do have the train instance here, and I can paste that URL in the chat as well, but take 5 minutes and then we come back and see if there's any questions on that.
Anisha,
Yes,
could you show me again how to filter to, say, the repeat students?
sure. So
I thought I had got that, but I clearly hadn't.
Filter.
Thank you.
So I'm just hitting this filter button here, and
it doesn't matter which of the four.
No.
Yeah, okay.
So you can apply a filter when you're on any particular screen. So I'm just going to select repeating.
Yeah.
And then equals, and then yes, and go apply.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anisha, firstly, thank you so much. This is really all exciting. Is there a way that you can have multiple filters kind of happening at once, or is it you kind of limited? So I guess one thing that's popping up for me is this could also be a really useful tool for like mark moderation across multiple tutors. And so I can see that you can bring in, like you can filter by activity and activity code, but it doesn't look like you could perhaps view it across all activities at the one time. Is that right? So, I see what you're saying. So at the moment you can filter down to one tutorial group, but you can't separate them out altogether. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Because we only allow one filter to be applied at a time. Yeah, I was playing around with like the and ors, but it looks like even if you tried to do and this or this or this, it doesn't allow you to kind of differentiate. Yeah. So when you're applying those filters, it's like combining them. So you're just drilling further down into a subset of students. Yeah. What you could do, I get what you're saying. What you could do is this bit here, because when we display tutorial in this screen, we're actually showing it all together here. Yeah. So it's a little bit of Excel work, but if you downloaded the CSV, you'd actually get this column here, and then you could work out in Excel how to separate out based on the tutorial groups. Yeah. To then do some charting. But yeah, if you wanted to do some further analysis of what you're doing, just contact Learning Analytics team and we'll try our best to see if we can help you set up that in Excel or something. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. So unfortunately, we've only just had 1 hour, and I now realize that it's probably a lot to get through in 1 hour of just going through all of Course Insights and doing a practical activity as well. I think I will talk to Chris about maybe having a follow-up just prior to O week as well, and maybe even try to do something in person as well as something virtual. What I have also is a little Padlet here. And I've posted the link inside the Teams chat, but also just open for anybody to talk through as well. Ideas like when in the semester would you like to use Course Insights, and also just thinking through what additional metrics visualizations you would require. I think one of the things we get asked a lot, and we're really trying to look at doing, is at the moment, the engagement metric is overall engagement. We get asked a lot to be able to filter engagement down to a particular week. And that's because academics, it might mean, it's after mid-semester has come up,
And yes, the student had high activity, but we've seen a little drop off in the actual chart, and we want to know which students those are. But at the moment, you can't actually filter down to them. So that's one of the things that we have on our roadmap that we're working on at the moment, to have that week date filtering come into it. Okay, it's a good idea to use course insights throughout the semester. And I think also it can be used as a way to review your course and your engagement for when you want to run the course again. So this next one, be able to relate specific data from Blackboard to course insights. By that, do you mean access on particular resources within Blackboard, particular slide link? Yeah. We've really been trying to get that data from Blackboard as a vendor. I think they are starting to include it, but they're not retrofitting. So we're still on standard version of Blackboard. And I think we're only going to start to get that once we go to Blackboard Ultra or upgrade our version at UQ. Mark rate moderation, that's a good one to know about as well. We definitely do have the tutorial group information, and I can see what you're trying to do there. So yeah, I'll take all of these ideas and add them to our roadmap. But definitely on that particular one, I think if you did contact us, we could look at a way of working out something for you in Excel.
Thank you.
Okay, and thanks for the comments in the chat as well.
I was just, does it do like similarity report data, from the integrity issue that is coming through Turnitin? Does that get collected as part of the data?
No, we don't put that into Course Insights. Turnitin as a vendor has been, I think, the hardest vendor to get any data out of automatically to pull into other systems. I know the e-learning team overall for a faculty or a school can show that similarity data across that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it has been harder for us to get. Is there a specific use case you have of why you'd want that in Course Insights?
Oh, the whole AI issue, right. Picking up those trends would be quite useful, but yeah, I understand it would be difficult.
Okay. All right, I think that's it. Keep adding to this Padlet as you think about it, because I obviously do always go and take out these ideas, feed it back to the team, put it on our roadmap. I think an hour was a little bit tough to get through more practical activities and things like that. I will have this discussion with Chris and try to get a follow-up session for the faculty as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming along today.
Thanks,
Anisha.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Anisha.
Thanks, Anisha. It's great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.